Welcome everyone to ISIS Parenting Sleep Support Webinar and Chat. My name is Nancy Holtzman. I'm a mom and baby nurse educator, board certified lactation consultant, and board certified in pediatrics, and I'm here at ISIS Parenting's home office outside of Boston, Massachusetts. I'm the mom of two older teenagers, and I've been working with expecting and new parents in the greater Boston area for the past 20 years. With me today, as she is most Tuesdays at 12 noon, is my friend and colleague, Meg Casano. Meg also is a registered nurse and a sleep specialist. She's the mother of four beautiful young daughters. And today we together are going to talk about the sleep environment and its impact on infant and toddler sleep. So I think without further ado, we'll launch right into the topic and believe that Meg will be taking the first slide, which is really just an overview. Meg, would you like to complete your introduction and get us started today?
Sure. Thanks, Nancy. So because we're talking about room environment, we thought we'd sort of preface this by saying, in a nutshell, we always ask our clients to provide their babies with a room that's cool, dark, and quiet. And we're going to talk about each one of these in more detail, and also the products that we often recommend go along with this. So the first thing we'd like to talk about is the importance of darkness and light too. But darkness is your reinforcer of your circadian rhythm. That's your baby's biological clock. And so you are always thinking to yourself, okay, I need my baby's little body in the dark from desired bedtime all the way through until desired wake up time. And we are talking about babies whose circadian rhythms have started to emerge and develop. So we're not actually talking about the teeny weeny little newborn babies. As your baby starts to have to be doing a lot of social smiling, and you're seeing more interaction, that's generally, around the 8 to 10 week mark. That's when you start to see the circadian rhythm developing, and that's when you're really starting to pay attention to your baby's room environment. Of course, great idea to be doing this right from the get-go. It's always a good thing to practice, but really becomes essential as you're getting close to that 3-month mark, 2.5 to 3 months. Basically what light is a biological reinforcer of to be awake. It's telling your baby's body that it's okay to be awake right now. And so turning on lights in the middle of the night, having lights in your baby's room all the time that are too bright can reinforce a middle of the night wake up, and it can also make it more difficult for your baby to fall asleep, particularly stay asleep in the early morning hours. And here's a little, only at ISIS tidbit for you. In the evening time, your baby's sleep pressure or sleepiness can actually overcome light cues sometimes. Your baby's just that tired. It doesn't really matter. He's going to fall asleep. Still, darkness is best. And when you're trying to solve a problem, darkness is essential. You really are giving your baby all the tools you possibly can to succeed when you're trying to make a change. So totally fair. But in the morning, your baby's sleep pressure, that sleepiness is wearing off. It is becoming harder for your baby to stay asleep, especially in the early morning. Your baby's doing different types of sleep. And so making sure your baby's room is really as dark as you can be, especially in those early morning hours, is essential. So again, you're thinking darkness from target bed to target wake. This little guy's crib here, the picture that we sometimes use, we like to use it because, it's an example of there's a really sheer shade on the window, so that's probably not going to do the trick. Not to mention it's like hanging into the child's crib, so safety issues too. And this little guy has an aquarium, one of those crib toys that a lot of parents like to use, and for babies who are having a problem, we don't recommend those because it's a stimulating light that baby could be exposed to. So save those for playtime, hangout time in the crib, time during the day, but better to have those off at night if your baby is going to be turning them on. Okay, so color of light is actually a factor. And this is the part where, we like to talk about, well, what about a nightlight? Is a nightlight bad? Can I use a nightlight? Yes, you absolutely can use a nightlight for comfort or safety, but you do need to keep it really dim. You want it to be just the equivalent of a soft glow, like the equivalent to a candle. Not, of course, that you would actually be using a candle, but just sort of that soft orangey ambery glow. Red light is neutral to the body. Blue and green lights are the most stimulating to the eye. So if you've got a blue or green light, particularly sometimes monitors or different things that you might have plugged in your baby's room, if it seems like it's bright or might be intrusive, you might want to just stick a little piece of duct tape over it to help with that. But having a nightlight, there's a half-life on light exposure. So if you can have a nightlight on the other side of your baby's room, if you can tuck it behind a chair or a piece of furniture, that's great. So again, don't feel like you cannot use a nightlight. You can. You just want to keep it nice and dim, soft glow, stay away from blue and green colored lights. And just for some quick tips, I don't know, Nancy, if you want me to give some quick tips on blackout shade solutions, or if you want me to maybe come back to that. That's a question we get asked a lot.
Yes, I noticed that somebody had just said that she was finding that the morning light was starting to disrupt her baby, so she pinned up some dark material. And I know that we're certainly fans of
Yeah,
true blackout shades or
and we get a
curtains.
lot of
You can
questions
talk
about
about that
this in
now. I
our
think and we may
individual
have that in
sleep
the slide coming
consults
up.
about, well, okay, so what do I do? And you can go quick and easy on the cheap. I mean, like this mom was saying, I pinned a black sheet. That's great. Black construction paper, even tin foil. You can buy blackout material in a box of thumbtacks at a fabric store. I mean, these are quick, easy, do it in a day kind of cheapy fixes that are very effective. You can also go, higher end and purchase, a honeycomb cellular shade. Darker colors are always going to be more light blocking. You could do a shade plus a blackout drape. Some of the big baby stores are now selling lots of great blackout drapes and stuff that you can use in combo with a blackout roller shade or a blackout honeycomb shade. So those are all quick, easy, even a black beach towel or a dark beach towel pinned up over your window can be effective. And you're absolutely right. This time of year, and especially as we go into spring and summer, it's going to be really important that your baby's room is as dark as you can get it in order to maintain the amount of night sleep that you're accustomed to. If you can't, and your baby's night is shortening significantly, you will be in a position of absolutely having to keep your baby's daytime sleep excellent. And on that note too, the darkness during the day, darkness during the day is different. It's not sort of that biological imperative that it is overnight. It's more of a psychological importance in that it neutralizes your baby's environment and makes it less interesting. So for nap time during the day, you want your baby's room dark enough that you can't read. So that's sort of your measure for that. And just to say too about, Nancy's got these nice graphs here about the computer screens. There's some information that's been coming out recently about exposure. We've got iPads, we're Skyping with grandparents, watching clips on playing games on iPhones, and a lot of that, especially if you have a little baby, you're not doing that, but toddlers as they get older, it may be very helpful. Again, if your child's having a problem, it may be helpful to keep that at least 30 minutes, if not an hour, away from the time that you would like your child to actually be falling asleep. Okay, so we talked about dark, now we talk about cool. Cooler is always better. If you're in question, we'd always rather have you err on the side of cool than too hot. And part of the reason is, there's safety and there's also biological reason. The body temperature has to drop at different times during the night in order to maintain sleep, reinitiate sleep. And so it is going to be important that your baby is not overheated and so unable to do that. In addition, we do know that there's an increased risk of SIDS when you have babies who are overheating and overbundled. Nancy's actually a great one to talk about this, some more in depth. Nancy, if you want to say a couple things about this.
We do recommend, I think we come to it in a couple more slides, but we do talk about dressing the baby for the environment and the sleep sacks, swaddling for a younger infant and the sleep sacks for older babies and toddlers. We do recommend because it's easier to regulate their temperature with those, and then a lot of people will ask Twitter about when they can start using a blanket for their baby, especially when their baby's no longer swaddled at 5 or 6 months. But as many of you parents know, babies are not going to stay put in the crib, so they're not going to stay under a blanket. So a wearable blanket really is a better solution for them.
So I see a question in the feeder here at the side. Room temperature, yes, we're happy to mention room temperature, but as you'll see in the next slide, that is only half the story. We know biologically that sleep, like Erin in her lab studies this, mid 60s to low 70s is the ideal room temperature for sleep. Again, always rather have you err on the cooler side, and lots of great products to help you determine this. Of course, one of our favorite is the Grow Bag Egg. This nifty little device that can record your room temperature. And if the egg is glowing in the proper range, it gives you this nice sort of soft orangey, yellowish kind of glow. Blue, of course, is not the color we're looking for, and that would be if the room was probably too cold. And red, of course, is neutral, but that would be too hot. So that's a great product to help you if you're in doubt in your room environment. And I also remind parents too, if their baby's waking up too early, I say, well, just double check your thermostat. Is it set to click on at 5 a.m. and your baby's room is jumping up 4 or 5 degrees, and now you have a baby who is fine all night but is now too hot. So the little things to think about if you're having a problem. And so, of course, even if you have your room in the desired temperature range, if your baby's overbundled, then it's kind of a moot point. So dress your baby for the environment. Sleep sacks are great. You can get, nice, snuggy, warm, fleecy ones for the winter, and you can get nice, lighter cotton muslin or type for the summer. Don't be afraid to use them even through toddlerhood. And always do keep your baby's feet covered. There's a little saying, warm feet promote sleep. So socks or footy pajamas is helpful too. You can assess your baby's temperature if you're in doubt. If you're working with your baby in the night on helping your baby get back to sleep, you can just put a couple of fingers down her chest or her back and be evaluating her core temperature. You want her to be warm and dry at the core, not cool, not sweaty and clammy. Don't worry so much about noses and fingers. That circulation is more immature, so it's normal for your baby's nose or fingers to feel cooler. Certainly if they feel icy cold, then your baby might be too cold. But that's a normal thing for hands and noses or even ears to be a little bit cooler. You are really looking more at the core body temperature.
Yes, when humans sleep, babies, adults, the capillaries, the fingers, toes, ears, nose, the capillaries don't get quite so much circulation, and the body is in a resting state, and the blood flow is centered more on the internal organs. And so that's why it's normal for fingers and toes and the baby's nose to feel a little bit cooler. And as Meg pointed out, feet really should be covered, even in the summertime when it's quite warm. If your baby is sleeping uncovered, you still would probably want to put a light pair of cotton socks on. So a baby can sleep in a diaper, a t-shirt, and little booties or socks. And just getting back to the warm temperature as summer comes, some of you may live in homes where there's no central air conditioning, and An upstairs room can get quite warm, and it's hard to talk about leaving the window open. In nighttime, you want some cool air in there, but again, you don't want the birds chirping at 5 o'clock in the morning. Having a fan circulating air is helpful. For about a year, there was a recommendation to have a fan running in the room where baby was sleeping to reduce the risk of SIDS. They went back and forth whether it truly did reduce the risk of SIDS, but certainly just to keep air circulating, if it's warm in the baby's room, that can be helpful. But don't get too anxious. If it's very expensive to heat your home, or if your home tends to be quite warm in the summer, just dress the child appropriately and do the best you can to safely keep the air at a reasonable temperature.
So here I see Kara's asking a question about her humidifier. We do recommend, especially in the winter when it's so dry, and Nancy again is the best one to talk about this. We do recommend cool mist humidifier. Go for it, Nancy.
Yeah. I am a fan of the humidifier, and this winter in particular, I've noticed I've been calling it, the amazing miracle sleep cure. I wish they were all so easy, but a lot of people will, in the middle of the winter, talked about their baby starting to wake up, or toddlers waking up more at night, and sometimes just adding a humidifier to the room really helps. Of course, we're in the Northeast here, and so it's cold and snowy here, and the heat goes on, and that dries out the indoor air. So when your body and an infant's body is actually close to 90% water, they have a higher proportion of water ratio than adults do even. And so when the air atmosphere around them is drier, it dries out their mucous membranes. They become more congested, sometimes thirsty. The skin becomes dry. That can be itchy or make eczema worse. So, if you live in an area like Florida where the air is always humid, this may not be an issue for you. But if the air is dry where you live, a humidifier in the room where the baby sleeps can be a significant assistant to sleep. And I would say, in the Northeast, when the heat goes off in the springtime, the air is more humid. And this is a seasonal thing too. The outdoor air is more humid. It's drier in the winter, and the air in the house becomes even drier because the outside air is drier, and then the heat dries it further. And then many people know that congestion, normal newborn congestion, is something that parents are very surprised by, the amount of snorting and snuffling that babies make at night, and that's because they're sleeping on their back, and the nasal secretions drain down the back of their nose and collect in the back of the throat, and so you really do hear a lot of breathing noises. You don't need to do anything about a drippy nose or mucus sounds in the nose unless it's really causing the baby difficulty sleeping or eating. And in that case, you want to use saline drops to irrigate and loosen the secretions, and then some sort of a nasal irrigator or bulb syringe or the nose Frida or something of that sort to help schnurble the mucus out. But sometimes just a couple of drops of saline in each nostril will help the baby sneeze, and then they clear it themselves. And babies have an active light reflex, and that's why when you take them outside, they sneeze several times in succession. Isn't it cute? They always sneeze once, twice, three times. They never seem to just sneeze once. And that's kind of a self-cleaning feature because babies are obligate nose breathers. They need to keep their noses clear so that they can have their mouths available for eating and not breathing all the time. And so they are very sensitive to light, and the bright light will make them sneeze, and the sneezing helps clear their nose. So it's interesting how the body works to keep track of itself that way.
Suctioning talk. It's
so yes, go with the humidifier.
Nancy. Okay.
Yeah,
all right. So
okay,
on to noise. This is, so we addressed cool, we addressed dark, and this is the quiet. So when your baby is doing the REM, more of the REM sleep cycles, those of you who know us and who've listened to webinars and had a sleep consult know when your baby's in REM sleep, your baby might be active, moving around. Your baby does not have the REM sleep paralysis that adults do. So you get a lot of the thumps and bumps and grunts and groans. And it's also a state of sleep that is more easily, that your baby will be more easily awakened from. And this is predominating the last part of the night and your baby's nap. So in other words, when your baby's napping and in the, about the last third of the night or so, that's when your baby is doing the type of sleep that she'll be most susceptible to being awakened by an environmental noise. So Therefore, we always recommend using a continuous white noise machine. And this is something that you would turn on as as you're putting your baby down for bed, and you'd make sure you find one that can stay on a continuous setting all night long. It's not shutting off on a timer. If it's being used for night sleep, it will stay on throughout the whole night or throughout the whole nap. You don't want anything that's changing on your baby in the middle of the night, which could potentially cause a premature wake up. Our favorite, of course, you've heard us mention lots of times, is the Marpac SleepMate. And you plug it in, turn it on. It's got a high-low setting. It's got a vent on the side. You can adjust the sound pitch as well. And you keep the white noise generally between the baby and the stimulus. So that might be between the crib and the window, for example, if you've got traffic or sirens outside. It might be between the crib or the bed and the door if you've got, siblings, or someone's waking up early in the morning to go to work at 5 o'clock, or, whatever the case may be. I know parents who have two going in their baby's room to, address both situations. When you're determining how loud your white noise machine should be, my rule of thumb is, go in there, because really it depends on the size of your baby's room. It depends on how, your drapes and your furniture. It's sort of when you're trying to figure out what setting you should have it on. A lot of parents ask this question. Go in the room when it's dark and quiet and your baby's asleep, and have your white noise set to the pitch and volume that you think it should be, and just sit for a minute and just kind of relax and close your eyes. If it feels intrusive to you in any way or stressful to you, it may be too loud. But if it feels like a nice background noise, then you're set. You do want it to be loud enough that it will mask those bumps in the early morning. And we don't recommend that you put it right under your baby's ear and blast it on full blast, but rather that it is between the baby and the sound. Intermittent white noise, a lot of people use the products that turn off on a timer after 35 minutes or so, like a Sleep Sheep or the Sleep Giraffe. This is the Cloud B product that's really popular. And, it's not going to serve as much of a helpful purpose in the overnight because it does turn off. And again, you don't want anything changing in your baby's environment all night. That feels like a bait and switch to your baby. But for use on the go, like in a car seat or on an airplane or in a stroller, if you're trying to have your baby nap on the go and it's a familiar background noise, sure, that can be really helpful when you're awake to keep kind of, you got to watch your clock, reset it before it goes off. Otherwise, you might have a nap that ends, right as the sound's going off. Okay. We put this in because we do get a lot of questions. I find it usually comes from the dads, so you can share this if there are any dads out there who are interested. Moms too, but a lot of people ask, well, okay, my baby likes to listen to waves crashing or insects chirping, or I play music on a continuous loop all night. What's wrong with that? You really just anything that's ebbing and flowing in sound has the potential to be more disruptive during those later sleep states. So, again, if your baby's not having a problem and you've been using wave noises since day one, okay, no need to rock the boat. But if your baby is having a problem, then, yes, I would recommend switching to a constant background noise that's not changing in pitch or tempo, such as music or such as waves crashing. And see if that will help you as well. I think Nancy has a picture of a college dorm room here, because people will sometimes ask, oh, well, is my child going to have to, go to college with their white noise machine? Well, maybe if they want to, and that's fine. If that's not something that you're looking to have happen, then when you're ready, when you feel like your baby is sleeping great, then you can simply phase your white noise machine out. Turn the volume down slowly. You can move it farther and farther away from the crib. You can even move it out the door into the hall, just sort of transition it out of the room. And
Mhm. Oh, and I put I put the little lab rat there because I get a lot of questions, and I see, once a year, this seems to be one of those internet stories that get circulated where people start asking about an article that they read that talks about white noise and infant brain development. And this actually all stems back to an article that was published in the Journal of Science, 2003. It was done at the University of California, and it looked at baby rats who were exposed to loud white noise for prolonged periods of time. And it had a negative impact on learning in the auditory cortex, the part of the brain that is responsible for hearing. Yet when they stopped using the white noise, the brain did resume its normal function and development. So the exposure was different than using white noise to mask nighttime noises. That really is the purpose of white noise, and humans are not lab rats. And really the important thing is that your child is not exposed to extremely loud noise on a continuous basis, and that they are exposed to a variety of sounds, and most importantly, direct interaction, communication, and spoken word. And that's face-to-face interaction. So that's the most important thing that will help stimulate the auditory cortex and brain development for language development later in life. But parents do not need to worry about using a white noise machine at night or at nap time to help their baby sleep, even though it can be moderately loud, rough noise. That is the type that's going to be most effective to help your baby sleep. I think the misconception also for products like the Sleep Sheep is that the white noise is a sleep association. And we don't really use white noise it can be a sleep cue, but the primary benefit is not as a sleep association. It is when your child, as Meg mentioned, during the final third of the nighttime sleep, when their homeostatic sleep pressure is lower, they're more likely to rouse from a subtle noise, a toilet flushing, a floorboard creaking, than they would at the beginning of the night when their body is in a deeper, more tired state. So as doors begin to slam outside, as the world begins to wake up and the birds start chirping, that's when you want your white noise to be on continuously.
So much white noise at such a volume.
Don't worry about little white rats.
Not a comparison to what we're talking about. And Nancy's exactly right. White noise is not a sleep inducer. So in other words, you put a white noise machine in your baby's room tonight, and it's not going to make them fall asleep, but it's a sleep protector. So it can help sustain the sleep through the night.
Yep, and different people are making comments. This is just a tool that can help certain parents in certain situations, and depending on your living situation, you may not really need white noise. It may not make much of a difference for you. I don't use it at home, but often if I go to stay in a hotel, I will pack my SleepMate white noise machine because it is in hotels and other sleep environments that the different types of noises do tend to wake me more or to make me more alert when I'm in a light sleep stage. My regular household noises I'm accustomed to, and so I can sleep quite solid. But when I hear noise on another side of the wall that I'm not used to, it disturbs me. So that's why it can be a temporary thing.
Okay, the optimal sleep environment day and night is cool, dark, and quiet. But of course, there's reality too. And, sometimes if your baby's sleeping in a more challenging, particularly daytime environment, like a busy daycare, there may be some things that you can do to help with that. We do have, I think, is Nancy going to post our webinar? We did a webinar on helping your child to sleep in an alternative environment, like a daycare, shared, nanny share environment, or sleeping in a different location a couple days a week, things that you might be able to do to help with that, such as, can you send in a white noise machine, or can you send in some sort of shade or drape that they would use? Sleep cues and sleep associations are really helpful in transitioning to a place like that, so your bedtime routines. So these are our webinars that you could go back and check out if you wanted to as well. And then, of course, if you ever need more individualized, personalized help, we are always happy. Our team of sleep consultants is always happy to help you with your particular baby and your particular situation and lifestyle and schedule and logistics and all that. And we are happy to help you with a sleep consult. And here are two of my four sleeping.
Next week is, yes, I love this picture. I added this bottom slide because this is Meg's daughter, and you can see it looks like these two pictures
Actually,
were
no,
taken
it's
about a
funny.
year
These are
apart,
two
maybe
different. Hannah's
15
the
months
baby.
or
Look at
so
those
apart.
chubby arms.
Baby
And
still sleeps
Charlotte,
in the
so
same
these are
sleep
even two different
position. I
babies.
love
This is
it.
how they sleep.
Love- Oh, so cute. So cute. Next week is we are gonna take a question. I see that I have already put a question through. But next week, I just wanted to let you know it's going to be a topic that you will all want to come back for and tell all of your friends, because we are going to answer the frequently asked questions about trading down sleep associations. So those of you who are regulars to the sleep webinar program know the term that we use frequently, trading down sleep associations. It's just one of several different types of sleep interventions, but probably our most popular intervention, our most popular webinar, the regular questions that people typically have about using this method. So if you have not yet watched Trading Down Sleep Associations, I'll post those links in a moment. That's definitely one you'll want to watch. We have two versions. We have one for infants and toddlers. We do have a question that we can answer before we wrap for today. This mom wants to know about her 7-week-old who falls asleep amazingly well in her swing, and then mom's been moving her once asleep to the crib or the pack and play. But mom is asking for other suggestions about transferring to a crib. I guess maybe she's asking about, she has the visions of how her college student will still fit in the swing perhaps. But at 7 weeks, if she has a baby who can fall asleep well, and get some
Oh
consolidated
yeah,
sleep
yeah,
in that
definitely.
safe
I mean,
sleep environment,
7 weeks. We
I'd
usually
give
say
that
by
kind of
10 weeks, if
a
the crib is
short-term
sort of
thumbs up. What do
your,
you think, Meg?
short-term to medium-term goal, it is the time to start practicing it. But it actually counts as practice, doing what you're doing, transferring your baby from sleep into the crib. And so you are definitely on the right track already, just instinctually. You can also do things like, for example, can you move that swing into your baby's room or next to the crib so she's getting used to sleeping in that environment? Maybe you have already done that. And finally, the next step would be, okay, well, once you know she can sleep at least for part of the nap in her crib, then you start practicing it. At 7 weeks old, I don't want anyone to have any stress of any kind, and so you wouldn't try crib sleep at the expense of sleep. In other words, if it wasn't working, your baby wasn't falling asleep, if she was getting upset or you were getting upset, don't be afraid to fall back on a safe, soothing technique, like, if you're using a swing or rocking, holding, bouncing, all those things, because the bottom line is your baby really needs sleep. But if you start trying to swaddle her up, have a great room environment, do some predictable little cues before the nap, and try to place her into the crib awake, she might just surprise you and fall asleep like that. If she's getting a little scoochy or starting to squeak or fuss a little bit, you can scoop her right back up, rock her, snuggle her, settle her down again, and try again. And you could try this half a dozen times if you want, this picking up and putting down method for newborns, and see if you can get her to the point where she actually does close her eyes and fall asleep. But if at any point at 7 weeks you feel like, you know what, this isn't working, or she's just tired, she needs to sleep like 5 minutes ago, and like I said, don't be afraid to rock her to sleep, and then continue to place her in the crib if you like to. And if that's working, you can also have some hangout time in the crib during the day to play and look at some toys or a mobile. A mobile wouldn't be helpful in the overnight, but during the day is a safe hangout time to keep her happy and used to her crib as having a nice crib association.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so it's very much like a series of baby steps. As Meg was saying, you can place the swing next to the crib where the baby will be sleeping. Another baby step may be to start her off in the swing, but then once the baby is asleep, to stop the motion of the swing. So she may be sleeping in the swing, but without the swing rocking is another small baby step. Sometimes babies sleep well in the swing or in the car seat because they are in effect swaddled. Their arms are down or restricted from flailing out. So when you go from sleeping in an upright position like the car seat or the swing, and you're going to try to transition to laying them flat on their back on a firm, flat surface, you may want to try swaddling. And one tip for babies that hate being swaddled is to lay your swaddling blanket out first, and then whether you're nursing or holding or rocking or bouncing, your baby is either asleep or very drowsy in your arms, then you can put them down and swaddle them snug with the arms down, and that may wake them up and make them cry a little bit, but then you can go back to what you were just doing just before you did the swaddle. So back to the bouncing on the physio ball or the walking or the patting or the nursing or whatever it was doing that helped the baby fall asleep. But now they'll fall asleep swaddled, and you'll have an easier time transitioning them from your arms down to the flat surface. And you can also hold on to the feet as you do that and do a little bit of a jiggle, jiggle, jiggle for 20 or 30 seconds to kind of help make that transition. So it's all about that vestibular motion. I can post some links on the swaddling with the arms down and that transition as well. I think it is time for us to wrap up. We actually went 6 minutes over, but it was a pleasure to do that. And next week, again, we're going to talk about trading down sleep associations, the frequently asked questions about that process. And if you do have specific frequently asked questions, then certainly shoot them over to us on Twitter or Facebook. But I think we certainly know which ones come up again and again. On Thursday, for those of you that are breastfeeding or pumping, the Thursday webinar is every Thursday at 12 noon. And this week I'm going to address the story that's been in the news, which is about the timing of introduction of solid foods and the fact that moms may be introducing solid foods far too early, well before 4 months. But I hazard a guess that is the moms that are not watching the IsisParenting feeding, sleeping, and infant care and development webinars. Because you guys probably know that it's a gray area between 4 to 6 months. But very few people are going to tell you, yeah, go ahead and feed your baby solid foods at 2 and 3 months, but quite a few people are out there doing it. I think they're probably putting cereal in the bottle, and that's what they're counting. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap up. Meg, thank you so much, as always, for sharing your expertise, and attendees, thank you so much for coming, and remember, please, to always help spread the word so that we can get a full house each week and continue offering these, and we will see you soon. Have a wonderful week.